Hi there, my name is Marcin and I'm going to take you through implementing a to-do app. Yeah, seriously. Anyway, I think that especially for people just coming to front-end development or to Vue.js 3, that can be a nice little project for a good start. So please bear with me. First we will go through initial setup, then work on the look and feel using sass CSS. Finally, we will use Vue.js to make the app useful. I will use Options API in the beginning and then transform everything to Composition API along with commentary so that you can have better understanding of the structure. I hope you join me and let's do it.
I assume you already have Node.js installed on your machine. However, if that's not the case, then you can go and quickly grab it from nodejs.org. By going to Downloads section, you can select what you need. And then to be able to conveniently start, you will need to install the Vue command line interface package, npm install globally on your machine. So G Vue CLI. I have already installed it, so I don't need to run it anymore. And you can read more about the Vue CLI package by going to the website. But for now, what you really only need to know about it at this moment is that it's a globally installed npm package that provides the Vue command in our terminal. And that allows us to quickly scaffold new projects. So that's what we're going to do. Vue create to-do app. For this simple project, what we want is a simple configuration. So we will select the features manually. So select Vue version and select CSS preprocessors. Press enter. It's important to select the Vue version 3 and then we'll pick the Dart sass preprocessor. For any configuration, we'll go with the package.json so that all the configuration is actually stored there. We just need to wait until all the packages get installed. Yeah, now we can see the to-do app. And here we want to switch to Visual Studio Code. If you haven't got it, then you can go and quickly grab it from the website. Code dot, meaning it will open Visual Studio Code within the to-do app folder. Now we can open a terminal, Control Shift tilde, and we can run the application to see what it looks like now. npm run serve. Yeah, that's our initial Hello World application. I'll quickly go through the package.json, which is our project file. So we have the name of our application to do app, the version. We don't want Node to publish our application anywhere. Then we have the scripts that we are able to run. So the standard scripts are the serve and build. Serve is for running on our application in development mode. We will be able to see all the changes live as we develop our app. And then once that's done, we'll be able to prepare a publishable package by running npm run build. Then we have dependencies. Our only dependency is the Vue.js version 3. And then dev dependencies, which are used for our app development. The first one is the Vue CLI service, and that's the specific version of the Vue CLI service. That is the core service loading any other CLI plugins. Currently, we don't have any plugins. The service is built on top of Webpack, and what's nice about it is that if you ever had to set up Webpack yourself, now for simple apps you don't need to worry about it anymore, as everything is already nicely optimized. And of course, if we need or want to, we are able to apply tweaks in the configuration. Then we have our compiler SFC. So this allows us to compile few single file components, such as the app view, so view files. Then we have sass, which is the sass preprocessor, and then sass loader uses the sass preprocessor, and in our case, the Dart sass package to generate CSS files. Then we have the browsers list, and this provides a list of browsers in the form of queries that can be interpreted by multiple tools such as autoprefixer for CSS post-processing, or Babel for JavaScript transforms, and a few others. By this, we can decide which versions of browsers we want our app to support. You have to remember that the more browsers you want to support, the more additional code will be added to the final app bundle. That means bigger size and slower load times of the app. So what do those mean? So greater than 1% means that we want to support browsers with more than 1% in global usage. We also want to support browsers that are of last two versions. So for example, last two versions of Chrome, last two versions of Firefox, last two versions of Opera, and so on and so forth. Then those that are not dead. So such that they have been supported or updated in the last 24 months. The knowledge about browsers comes from a separate Can I Use Lite package. It was already installed here. And this package contains a snapshot of selected data from the Can I Use com site. We can see the selected browsers by running npx browsers list. And these were generated based on this setting. You can play around with this and see what output you will get when you change the queries. Right. So let's clean our app a little bit. First of all, we don't need the components. We can remove that. And this is because I'm going to develop the whole application using just one file, app view. So I can remove that. I can remove the components, the hello world. I can also remove this. And here we have the style. I would like the style to be placed in a separate file. That's why we installed the sass preprocessor. I'll call it sass. And then the file name will be just style.scss. We'll move the app style over there and actually remove the style from here for simplicity. Yeah, for this to work, of course, I will have to import that in our main.js. So import assets sass style scss. Now you might be wondering what this does. So this is the create app. That's the function that we use to create our Vue application, and then we mount it onto the app division that's here, index.html. That's exactly in this place, div ID app. So every time our application loads, Vue.js will render the application and mount it onto here. What else do we need? Well, for now that's it. So let's call it hello, and let's have some background of the whole body. Background color. Let's say it's, I don't know, light gray. I want it to be even lighter. Yeah, something like this. Then we'll see what our app looks now. Yeah, that's hello. Let's see if the background actually works. Yeah, it works. So we want to leave it like that. And then the rest. Actually, all those things, we don't need them. We'll leave only the font family. And then we'll go to our app. And we want to create our to-dos container. So I'll use the emmet notation. To-dos container, then dot to-dos box. We will have first the input, then the divider, and then the items. So to-do input, then the divider, to-do items. So the to-do item can be something like do the laundry. Then we need to have some button. Let's call it done button. Done. Mop the floor. Do the dishes. Then to do input. We want to have a place where we actually enter all those things to do. So input, text, placeholder. What do you need to do? That's it. And then the button. And we want to use special characters. For that, I will use a site called Graphemica. And we'll use the plus sign or cross. That's the one. Add button. And U plus 2713. Check mark. Instead of done, we will just use this. Let's see what our app looks like now. So do the laundry, done. Mop the floor, done. What do you need to do? Plus sign. Do the laundry, mop the floor, do the dishes. Yeah, we have to style it now. So we'll go here. And then what do we have? We have our to-dos container. So to-dos container. The height, so that we can center our box. The height will be like 90% of the view height. And display flexbox, justify content, center, line items, center. Yeah. Then our to-dos box, to-dos box, background color can be, for now it can be white. Then border, 1 pixel solid, and the color light gray. Yep. And the width can be like 50% of the view width. Border radius like 10 pixels. And yeah, we have to have some padding. And some box shadow. So 5 pixels X, then Y 5 pixels, then blur radius 5 pixels, spread radius -5 pixels, and some color. Let's have it as RGB A alpha 211 211, 211, and some opacity of 1.75 alpha. Now to the input in the to-dos box. So to the input, display flex, justify content, space between. We want it so that the input and the button have space between them. Otherwise, they would be together, yeah? We'll get some padding, 10 pixels, 0. So 10 pixels in the top and bottom and 0 on the left and right. Then we have the input element. We will style that input. So we want it to take up the remaining space. Flex grow 1. And then font size medium. Again, some padding, maybe 10 pixels. Yeah. And some border. 1 pixel solid. And then what color? Like light gray for now. Yeah. Border radius 5 pixels. Yeah. We want to get rid of this outline. So outline none. We won't have it anymore. We're going to add some styling for the add button. Add button. Font size large. Let's have it as large. Then some padding. So 0 pixels from top and bottom and 20 pixels left and right. Actually, yeah, padding top should be 5 pixels. Yep. We want to have a pointer when we hover over the button. So cursor pointer. Yeah, that's it for now. And now the to-do divider, yeah. We have the to-do input, then to-do divider. Border bottom, 1 pixel, solid, and it would be the same color as the box, for example, light gray, gray. And actually, at this point, it would be nice to have some order in those colors. So we can use the root element where we will specify all the colors that we are using. So in the body, we will be using the color, for example, body BG, and that's what we're going to call it. Color body BG. and then to-dos box white. So color box bg white. So then light gray of the border. So color box border light gray. And yeah, input. We can just say that we want to have this as border. Yeah, similar. And to the divider, the same thing. We want to reuse them. Color box. Then the margin would be 10 pixels from the top and bottom and 0 from the left and right. That's it. And then time to style the to-do item. It's got a span and a div of done button, which is here and here. So we will use the flexbox and then justify content space between so that the elements have a space between them. We will align them vertically. And padding 5 pixels. Now the done button. Done button. So font size large. We'll get some left and right padding. Yeah. And then color. Let's have it as color to-do button. We will have to define it as, I don't know, light gray for now. Then cursor pointer, so that when we hover, we get such a pointer. And that's it. Please remember to have those items in the to-dos box. So here, here, and here. They belong to the to-dos box. Having everything in the sass file allows us to very conveniently structure our CSS files. And that's almost it. Now we have the basic functionality, but our site is a little bit boring. We can add some life to it. Let's add some effect when we hover over the done button. So hover, then color, to do button hover. Let's, for example, have it as black. Yeah, so now we will have it like this. It would be good if it grew when we hover on it. Let's do that. We'll do transform scale 1.5. Yeah, much better. It would also be good if there was some animation. So let's add some animation. So transform 1 and then transition. Whole point. Yeah, 0.2 seconds. Much better. And actually something similar in here would be nice as well. So we'll go to the add button. Again, hover. We want the color to change. So let's have color. This time add button. Hover. And we also would like to have, for clarity, a button, a color for this button as well. So add button, what color? Light blue. Yeah, let's see. Then the hover. Oh, no. Add button hover. Blue. Yeah. And then similar animation. So we will transform scale 1.5. Similar stuff. Transition all, then to 0.2 seconds. Yeah, that works. And yeah, here we can add stuff. Yeah, that looks good. It would also be good to add some styling to the items that we have already checked off. So let's do that. So for example, for to-do item, when we mark it as done, we would like it to change somehow. Yeah, so let's go to to-do item. Done. We will change the color of the of the fonts. Color. Item done. Let's specify it. Light gray. I keep using the same one. Yeah, as we can see, an item that is marked as done looks like this. And it would also be nice if we could somehow get rid of such items from the top and moving them somewhere to the bottom. And we can do this using Flexbox. Let's see if we have that. Yeah, that's to-do item. The item itself is a Flex container. To-do item, then to-do input. So we would need to make its parent as a Flexbox. So let's do that. Display Flex. Yeah, we have to set up the direction of the Flexbox to column. And yeah, once we have this, then we can apply a change to the property of the to-do item. So flex items can be ordered in custom ways. So let's say 1,000. Yeah, assuming that we won't have more than 1,000 items in this box. So every time we mark the item as done, that item will go down. So do the dishes, same thing. Do the dishes, done. One more thing is styling the button, the done button. So let's add that. Done button. We would make it a bit larger so that we see that, okay, that's done. Font weight, yeah, it could be bolder. I will use the bold. Then color, something maybe green would be good. So color, item, done. It's the button, yeah. Color, item, done, button. Done. Well, that's a little funky name. Color, item, button, done, yeah. Maybe that will be better. Color, item, button, done. A light green. Yeah. We could make it even larger. So by transforming it, transform scale 1.5. Yeah. Now this looks much better, yeah? Okay. Now I think we're ready for the implementation, yeah? Let's close the styling. Main index. Here we have our app. We're going to finally start coding using Vue.js. I'll start with the Options API, and then I'll transform the code into a Composition API, explaining a few things along the way. So data, function. The data needs to be a function that returns an object. Return. And what do we have? We will have the to-do items, yeah? To-dos. And that's an array. And there will also be the text. So in order to bind the input value with a variable that we're going to have, we need to use vModel. So let's call it to-do text. To-dos and to-do text. That's empty. And to-dos. So what is there in the to-dos? We have the do the laundry. Yeah, let's have that. That's let's call it a text. And then whether it's done or not. So let's call it done, false. Then another one. What else? Mop the floor, do the dishes. Yeah. So for now, yeah, that still works because we're not binding anything. But we're going to bind now all those items. So I'll remove that. We only have to do the laundry. And now what we need is iterate over the array of to-dos. Yeah. So v4, it's a to-do in to-dos. We need to bind each element to a key. So key. We could have a to-do ID, but we don't have it in this particular case. And we're going to use the standard for loop index. So to-do index in to-dos, to-do index. Then the text. Well, if we run it now, we should actually get 3 times and do the laundry. Yeah, let's see. And that's because we have 3 elements. We go over each one of them and display do the laundry and then the done button. But we want to have the titles, yeah, here. So to do text. And then whether it's done or not. Yeah, that's here. So to do, we will add a class that we're calling done. So done. And that class will be added to the element only when the to do done is true. So we've got the items now. They are still to be done. If we, for example, mark an item as done, so true, then this item will be done, as we can see here. Let's do this as false. So once we click the done button, we would want the item to get updated. Yeah. So add click mark as done. That will be the name of the function that we're going to call on the to-do item. So we're going to add a method, methods mark as done to do. So to do done true. Another thing. Oh yeah, we can already check whether that works. Yeah. So here, here, here. Yeah, that works. We want to add new items. Yeah. So let's, on clicking the button, want to add a new item. Let's call it just add. We will also want to add an item when we actually press enter. So that's what we can do by saying add key up, enter, so pressing enter, and then add. Now we just need the implementation. Add from the data. The data is under this. So this to do text. That's what we're going to use. So this to do's, that's the array that we have. We will do push and then text and the done property as false. So now we're ready to add new items. Let's refresh and let's see. Look at the result. Yeah, we got it. And what else? Yeah. But once we add the item, we would like it to disappear from here. So let's do so. So this to do text empty. Another thing that I would possibly add is making sure that all those new items get added in the beginning. So instead of push, I would call it unshift. So now take a look. Yeah, it's in the beginning and now the text gets emptied. And we're pretty much done at this stage, but we would like the list to get stored somewhere. And in our case, we will just store the items in the local storage of the web browser. So let's do so. So we can actually forget about those items. And we can do something like load to-dos and then do this to-dos stored items. That will be the array that we'll get from somewhere. So stored items. And what we can do, we can assume that we will already have at local storage an item which is a key value store to-dos, and this is going to be a string. So we would need to parse the string into an array object, and that string will be a JSON string. So let's have JSON parse the items. Now in case there are no items yet, no string, we would like an empty array. So that's what we'll do. That's an empty array in JSON format. And we would also want to store the items. Store to-dos. So that's the opposite operation where we do set item to-dos and then the items. So we'll do JSON stringify this to-dos. Yeah, that's it. And we want to, when our application loads, we want the to-dos to get loaded. Yeah. So we will use the mounted hook, mounted, and then just call this load to-dos. So from this moment, we don't need those items anymore. They are empty. This is what we get when we load the application, and now we can add all those things. So what was there? Like do the laundry. Let's see. Let's see if that has been stored. It hasn't. Yeah, and that's because after we add an item, we would need to just say this stored to-dos. And again, do the laundry. Let's see. Yeah, it gets stored now. We can mark it as done. So let's see. Yeah, we marked it as done. Let's see if that works. And obviously it doesn't, because we also need to store the array after we mark as done. Yeah. So let's do that. That's a very simple application, so we don't use any sophisticated way of storing items. Here we just store the whole array every time we make a change to any of the property, any of the item. Let's see if that works. Do the laundry. Yeah, now it gets stored. So we can add all those other things. Do the shopping, yeah. Mop the floor. Read the book. I'll use the button here. Let's see if that works. Yeah, that works. And let's say we have just read the book. Yeah, it got down. Now we have implemented the application using Options API, which is perfectly valid within Vue.js 3. However, we want to use the new Composition API, which gives us cleaner way of writing and then maintaining the code. First thing that we can note in Options API is that we have methods that actually are not needed by the template, but still are accessible by it. And maybe we would like to have some separation of methods that we don't want the template to access and methods that we want the template to access. One way of doing this would be, of course, maybe going here, yeah, and then using them. But then the problem is we would have to somehow provide the this, which we don't have here. So we would have to inject it here and so on. That's a bit of a problem. So instead of that, when we use the composition API, those issues stop existing. Now let's use the composition API. And the function that we're going to use is called setup, which accepts parameters like props and context, but we're not going to use them in this particular case. So we're going to use the data just like before, but this time using a reactive function which takes an object and returns its reactive proxy that also works for all nested properties of the object. So we can simply copy this, and then for the methods, We can also copy those and have them like that. And this is the way I prefer to structure the setup function. However, you can see that some of the implementations don't use like a const method at all. I use it because it gives me greater visibility what is used as a method that is used by the template and what is not. So those load to-dos and store to-dos are clearly, as I mentioned earlier, are not needed in the template. So we can put them just here. And that's a function. Here, a function. Here, the to-dos are no longer under this because we don't have the this anymore in setup. Data. And then here, data to-dos. This stays the same. Here we don't have the this, so store to-dos. Then data to-dos, data, and store to-dos. Yeah, and here, data. We also have this mounted. So in composition API, we can call a method, a function called onMounted. And this function needs to call the load to-dos, just like in the beginning, yeah? Load to-dos. So now we can get rid of this. And we have rewritten the options API into the composition API. What we're missing is actually the reactive. We have to pull it from the Vue package. Then a little bit of cleanup. And yeah. Are there any issues? No. So let's see if that works. Empty. Let's add something. Task 1. Yeah, it doesn't work. So let's see what happens. And of course, we have to return an object from setup. And that object will have reactive properties and functions that will be callable from the template. So what do we have? We have a to-do text and to-dos. We have to return them. Data. But that's not enough. We have to convert now the reactive proxy object into references. So what we'll do, we go with two refs and then like this. But still, this is not enough because we have to destructure the object. So we'll use this, two refs, and then the methods. And again, same thing. We have an object, methods that has got those two methods. We have to destructure it, yeah? And now let's see if that works. Again, it failed. toRefs is not defined, of course. The toRefs, we have to get it from Vue. Yeah, and as we see, we have those items. This is what we had with Options API. Now we have this with Composition API. Let's see if that works. Do the shopping. Yeah, that worked. Read another book. Yeah, that works. Let's see if this has been stored. Yeah, it has been stored. So things are working again. So we don't need that anymore. I'll adjust this here. And you can see that the implementation that we have here nicely maps to the one that we had when using Options API. We have the data, then we have methods, then we have the mounted hook. That is how I usually like to structure the components setup function. However, you can find elsewhere that many implementations of setup function look a bit simpler. So I'll get rid of the methods to make it a bit simpler. Here I need to add the function, then function add. And then as we don't have this object methods anymore, we have to just type them individually. So mark as done and then add. The next thing is the data object. So currently you will have it as a reactive object that is a proxy, but we want to change that into individual ref objects. So instead of calling two refs, we will have individual ref objects. So essentially we will perform the same operation as two refs does. So two refs data returns an object that contains to-do text, and that's a ref, and to-dos as a ref. And here this object was destructured into individual refs. So this essentially creates a to-do text ref and then the to-dos. So now instead of returning data, we can simply say to-do text and to-dos. We have to remember that ref is a function that takes a value and returns a reactive and mutable ref object that has a single property value. So now we will need to add everywhere the dot value. So data to-dos, that's a value. Where else? Data to-dos, value. That's fine. To-dos, value. To-do text, yeah, that's a value. To-do text, that's it. And now we're going to see whether that still works. Yeah, something has just broken. Ref is not defined. Yeah, again. Yeah, now we are not using the two refs. We are using ref. And there is this data. Let's see. Ah, yeah, of course. We don't have data anymore. So we can remove that. So here, Control D, then here, here, and here. Where else? We can just remove that. And then we'll see. Yeah, now we got it working. I'll refresh again. Yeah. Let's mark mop the floor. Yeah, that worked. Read another book. That worked. Can we add another task? Another task. Yeah, that also worked. So we have the application working with a typical setup structure. We have the to-do text, to-dos, mark as done, add. And that's pretty much it. However, in order to decrease the chances for confusion, I like to append ref to the names of the ref variables. So I'll do so. To do, then where else? To do and to do. I'll call it a to text ref. The same here. So we have to do's, ref. It's just much easier not to confuse the variables, because on each ref you have to call dot value. With reactive properties, reactive objects, or the results of the reactive function, you don't need to call a value, but for refs you do. To-dos ref, and to-dos ref. Yeah, I think that's it. Ah, yeah, here to-dos ref, and here ref. And that of course means that we also have to add the ref here and here. Yeah, that should work. Okay. Has it been stored? Yes, it has been stored. So yet another task. Great, that works. So that's pretty much it. Now for sure, we have the implementation. And I'm going to put this implementation, the app view and the style as CSS, onto GitHub gist, so that you will be able to compare your implementation with mine and then possibly extend it. Do whatever you want to do with it.
I hope you followed along and learned at least a few things in the process. This is my first video on YouTube, and I would really appreciate if you let me know in the comments section what you liked and what you didn't, so that I can publish better videos in the future. Thanks, and hopefully see you next time.